Hello everyone, this is Nicholas Hessman and Joseph Bayash. Hold on. Hello everyone, this is Nicholas Hessman and Joseph Bayash with Seven Waters. We are out in our wonderful screened-in backyard. It is
Kids are cut off, dude.
22 degrees.
Let's start over one more time.
In Toledo.
Okay.
Hello everyone, this is Nicholas Hessman and Joseph Bayash with Seven Waters. We are beginning a certification course that covers 7 energy centers of the body and teaches individuals how to do weight training and coaching questions around those specific energy centers. Today we're speaking on just the base energy center, which we relate to the concept of reverence. This is something that we don't in contemporary society talk about too much. And just so you know, we are on our back porch screened in area recording this, giving it a test run. And we have flames around us for heat, candles. It's 22 degrees. It's actually not that bad, but it is a little chilly. So we're still adjusting. And basically with this recording, we want to share some deeper definitions and approaches of what we're speaking about with reverence, as we are really more into the certification course that we will be presenting here soon in some upcoming videos. So in this short video, we are simply giving definitions of reverence, its quintessentiality in life, why Joseph and I consider it very important to know and to think about and to discuss, and how we approach this term. I have a few ways of comparing reverence with that of fear, and from my theories and my understandings, my belief, if someone has enough reverence in life, the fear won't overtake them. Fear of whatever type of anxiety or whatever may be concerning and causing someone to not feel in their present self. So theoretically speaking, and I find it to be true in my life, when someone exercises the right aspect of reverence, it balances and establishes a foundation from which everything else can flow. That being your self-love or your self-discrimination, as well as your self-acceptance, where your ego resides. So before we can have a strong and enduring ego, if you will, that loves others and is balanced in multiple situations, this reverence is quintessential. It comes through my Christian understanding and studies in academia, my upbringing in multiple cultures all across the great United States of America. And so today, I'm handing you the floor, Joseph, with the concept of reverence, and I will interject a few more implications and parts of importance. I see this to be foundational. And from our teachings and understandings of the certification course, we're speaking about the base energy center, the color red, the base chakra, if you will, from a yogic teaching perspective as well. Joseph, go ahead.
Well, to start off, when we think about reverence, and Nicholas mentioned the idea of fear, and we hear sometimes in our biblical studies about fear being the first step in knowledge of the Lord, so to speak. But what we're talking about here is how reverence is a little different than fear. There's a quote here on one of my papers. Oh, we got some fire.
Go ahead, buddy.
Really going. So fear.
Hey, this might be a perfect example of fear right now.
So
no, go ahead, because that was fire.
So like exactly fire.
That could have.
You know. Yeah, we should be somewhat afraid of fire, but the main thing is we learn to respect it and we learn how to keep it contained. So for a young child, fear of fire is a very healthy thing to start out with. Now, the final goal is not fear, but again, reverence. Another situation which we could think of reverence outside of, like, you know, natural things, or we could think of animals. You know, if something's bigger than us, we want to approach it with a certain amount of discernment. So reverence brings with it a dimension of discernment. So it's very important for us to maintain reverence towards all things, even, you know, things that sometimes can appear innocuous, you know, like water. We have to still be reverent towards water. I heard it said, you know, you could drown literally in a puddle of water if you got knocked out and your head were in the water. So I think a lot of what reverence points to is the idea that things in and of themselves often aren't good or bad, but have the capacity to either help or harm. And again, oftentimes we might need to learn, at the beginning, how they could harm us as we learn how to use them to our benefit. So
I like the pragmatic perspectives of reverence you're speaking of, like with children, concepts of fire or water, how they can be so dangerous, or sitting at the side and roasting a marshmallow with your niece or nephew or son or daughter. That is remarkable, but having that respect for the fire. So living into these earthly aspects, right? There's also these spiritual aspects of reverence from which the certification course hits on. With whatever religiosity you happen to be reared in and brought up in, with whatever part of the world or nation, this concept of reverence seems to be more universal, meaning that any faith tradition or religiosity or any kind of culture that you do exist in, there is a form of reverence that you have to exercise within that system. And having an endearment toward life, having awe of it, respect for it. One that I point to, if you want to go to a really maximum perspective of reverence, is from my Christian perspective, reverence toward God, reverence toward Christ, having reverence toward what the Holy Spirit is. And then this actually trickles into me exercising reverence toward every person I come into contact with. And now, what is so neat to me, and I meant to bring this up earlier, is if you want to bring a dichotomy into this energy center, and it seems most of the energy centers do have dichotomies that you have to work with. This is the fight or flight mechanism. It's the first mechanism that exists within an infant as they're developing consciousness. So they know to fight by screaming and crying to get their way, or they know to exercise flight by falling asleep and withdrawing. And so we as adults exercise this awareness as well. When the right amount and capacity of reverence is exercised, it establishes the foundation of trust for the rest of the energy centers to do their balanced job. So later in another video we'll be speaking about the sacral energy center, and that's the knowledge center, and we all love knowledge, most of us, right? And to transfer and share and exchange. But what is that knowledge? What good is that knowledge unless this base reverence is balanced and knowing? What will that knowledge do? So it's like St. Teresa of Avila taught me this in the interior castle work. Her reading of the first interior chambers, she taught me a lot on how to understand this. As a child, I was taught to pray and exercise reverence toward a higher deity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Now, as a 40-year-old male, I still find myself exercising that same presence of reverence. Works for me, may be different for someone else. I also enjoy exercising in forms of meditation where I open myself up and quiet myself. These are forms of reverence. When I light candles, it seems to happen for me. These different exercises of reverence. And then we create a pattern around it, and it keeps us open and flowing. So what would you like to say there, Joseph, when it comes to this, CERT course, certification course? We're wanting to deepen people's awareness around what each of these energy centers present. And right now we're just talking about numero uno, the first, the base.
Yes, so we're talking about the base chakra.
Is it fear, or are you going to have reverence? It's kind of where we're going. Go ahead.
Exactly, and you're saying it comes before knowledge. And if we use the fire example with children, you want to teach them the reverence of the fire before you teach them the knowledge of how to strike a match and light it. Because again, you got to know what you're dealing with. We see this all the time. People will use their knowledge for bad things, and we want to be mindful that our knowledge can be used in multiple ways. So that was one thing I'd like to say. Another thing is when we talk about the idea of reverence towards God or our deity, our maker, our creator. It makes me think of that concept from divinity school called numinous, the word numinous. And it means this space in which you're, in a certain sense, in awe, which is a word you use, a synonym for reverence, and you're somewhat a little bit terrified at the same time. You're really entranced and like amazed, and at the same time you're almost about to pee yourself because it's a little bit more than you. I've heard this concept actually comes in when people see like a big tornado or something coming. They're mesmerized by it, but they're scared. I've heard this happens in warfare at times. People will be on a battlefield and they'll just be looking around at like what's going on, and almost hardly present because they're just like captivated. So when we talk about reverence, we got this one end that's talking about respect, and then another end that's sort of talking about awe or something that's bigger than us. So,
and those kind of go together on one side of me. If I want to create a dichotomy and say over here on this other side is this terror, fear,
Yeah.
and this anxiety of extreme abandonment or loss of knowing what is base and what is here, what is now.
Mm-hmm.
There was in the Hebrew text, of course, not everyone knows, but the burning bush.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a voice that came to Moses, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say about his sandals?
Take them off.
Why?
You're standing on holy ground.
And I mean, there's a basic story there, narration that says, look, man, and when you're as a human being, as a spiritual being, you're opening yourself to those higher powers by exercising the appropriate measure for your faith capacity of reverence. And where those aren't being exercised appropriately, as somewhere in the book of Proverbs it speaks, you'll run in fear when nothing's even chasing you. And we've probably experienced that before. So this is a place for me to where I keep focused within my spiritual center, my soul, if you will, on just the base energy center. And I can ask myself with discernment, am I exercising reverence in this moment or that moment? Am I in fear in this moment or that moment? And it's bewildering how much of my past life that I was living in these concepts of fear that I had no control over, couldn't adjust by sitting in it and bellowing. And instead I could pray, meditate, focus, discipline, get centered, ground myself, if you will, ground myself in what's going on, and have reverence and be present in the moment. When we move on to the second energy center, we're going to find a lot of cruxes around the concept of scorekeeping. And there seems to be within this core energy coaching and this certification course work, giving a person their voice, helping them to learn interiority, helping them to know self. So once this reverence energy center is balanced in an individual, it then allows the sacral energy and its scorekeeping apparatus to balance. And so without this base, you almost have to check in, Joseph, and exercise on a weekly basis. You have to check in with these energy centers and am I exercising reverence in my life? Am I filled with fear? What am I doing in my head all day? And it can really bring you down to earth and center yourself. I have said the majority of what I'd like to say to present a little deeper layer on what Seven Waters is doing in the certification coursework. As Patu Burns, professor from Div would teach, we're going through all this on roller skates really fast. It's hard to cover the bases. We're taking a moment here in this video to go a little deeper with definitions, with semantics, with aspects of it on a holistic, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual perspective. Joseph, you have the floor, and thank you for sharing with us and me on this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Reverence.
Yeah, you made me think of three different things. Let's see if I can remember two of the three. But the first was what you said about the basic idea of trust. So the first stage of faith is basic trust between the infant and its parents. And then from there we start to see if we can trust other family members. Then we go to school, we start to trust people we don't know. So we have to start with a solid sense of trust to initiate our base chakra.
Think about watching a dog for an afternoon for a friend. The first thing that dog will do in the backyard is check its parameters, make sure it can trust you. Does it have to be in fear of you, or it can have reverence and hang out and then just enjoy its dog life with you? Every one of us have that in us on these different levels. And we have these new awareness tools, if you will, in 2018 to evaluate ourselves and really make extreme adjustments within ourselves to become more centered, more present, more powerful in so many ways. And we get to navigate it. This is phenomenal to me, and it is really extraordinary as we say these stages of development that each adult, from very infant on to old adulthood and beyond, each of us go through these stages. We get to speak about these from a psychological and theological perspective, as well as fitness and yogic and coaching. So Joseph and I are blending many different academic threads together to present this material to you, and we hope you enjoy it. We enjoy it. We love it. This is our life's work, and we have many more videos to come on these dimensions of the human being, the energy center that we are, the 7 energy centers or more that we are, and how amazing it is to know ourselves in this way. So that's a wrap on our teaching on reverence today from Seven Waters. Please check out on a link right here. Or is it over there, Joey, right there, over on the side?
Yeah, it's
Seven
gonna be
Waters
around there.
certification course. We'll be doing a weekend cert course. We'll be doing Saturdays teaching base and sacral, Sundays teaching solar plexus and heart. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 to give you guys all some really incredible knowledge and skill sets and training tools to know yourself and to know your loved ones more. Thank you for your time, and we hope you have a blessed weekend. See you next week. Peace.
Thank you.